Coming up, it's Women's History Month. We spotlight a Sichangu Lakota artist. Plus, Lily Gladstone came shy of winning an Oscar award for her role in Killers of the Flower Moon. We have reactions from ICT's reporting team, who was on the red carpet and inside the theater in Los Angeles, as well as from the Osage Watch Party cheering both Lily and others from the Native community on. That's ahead on the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Support for the ICT Newscast with Lily Chavez comes from the Arizona PBS studios in Phoenix at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications at Arizona State University.
Amidawa Hopa. Thank you for joining us. I am Aaliyah Chavez. The major story today, Lily Gladstone gets snubbed at this year's Academy Awards. Last night, the Oscar for Best Actress went to Emma Stone in Poor Things. If Gladstone won, she would have been the first Native American person to ever win in that category. Online, fans quickly pointed out that it was especially surprising because earlier this year, the Blackfeet and Nez Perce creative had already won a Golden Globe and a Screen Actors Guild Award. Typically, winning those awards means one is a shoo-in for an Oscar. On stage, Stone gave a nod to Gladstone, celebrating her masterful performance in Killers of the Flower Moon. We'll have lots more Oscar coverage later in our newscast, including the powerful performance by the Osage Singers with ICT's Paris Wise, who was at the event at Dolby Theater in Los Angeles. In Oklahoma, the Osage Casino was buzzing with excitement as the community threw an Oscars watch party to root for this year's Native nominees. Even though Lily Gladstone and Scott George didn't score a statue, pride filled the room. Paris Wise reports.
Cheers for Scott George and the Osage Singers erupted at an Oscars watch party held in Oklahoma at the Osage Casino in Pawhuska. The 96th Academy Awards showcased Indigenous talent like never before. Scott George was nominated for Best Original Song and was in fact the first Osage to be nominated in that category. Him and the Osage Singers were one of 5 performances done that night by the nominees. Another first was Lily Gladstone, the first Native American to be nominated for Best Actress in a leading role. The Osage Watch Party collectively gasped and groaned as Gladstone was not named the winner. While no awards went to either nominee, there was still much to celebrate over the many accomplishments that came from Killers of the Flower Moon. Paris Wise, ICT News.
While actress Lily Gladstone didn't take any trophies home at the 2024 Academy Awards, the Osage Nation and Indigenous people everywhere declared themselves winners last night. ICT's Paris Wise was on the red carpet and inside Dolby Theater in Los Angeles for the event. Paris, hello to you.
Hi, Aaliyah.
We have to start off with the major storyline that we've been following for weeks with actress Lily Gladstone, who unfortunately did not win the Best Actress award. Tell us what the energy was like inside the theater when they actually announced her category.
Well, yeah, I'd say we've been waiting even longer for this moment, right? When we saw the 9-minute standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival Award for this movie. We've been waiting for this moment. So just being there, I immediately felt emotional once I sat down in the theater. I already knew that if Lily was going to win, I would be bawling just like many other people. And so when they announced her category, I had both my phones out, and I would say it was the most highly anticipated category of the night, not just for us, not just for Native communities, but for people all over watching. And
I would also say, like, given the markers of Lily winning the Golden Globe and the SAG Award, I, along with so many other people, thought she was going to win, especially considering how other categories who also won those awards were given the Oscar. So, this just broke out of that pattern a little bit.
I want to go to the moment when Jennifer Lawrence was introducing Lily Gladstone as a nominee. Tell us what that atmosphere was like. And I imagine it was really special because it was women sort of empowering women.
It was, her words they felt very genuine. It was a huge monumental moment for all of those women. And just to see them all supporting each other was really heartfelt and touching. And I would say, once they didn't say Lily's name, I didn't know if it was just me, but it definitely felt like the energy in the theater was just sucked out. And it was a very confusing moment, to just feel that whiplash, like I said, after following Lily's journey for so long, and only to find out it wasn't just me. I had conversations with the people around me. I had conversations outside of the theater afterwards with friends and family. And I could say there was a collective disappointment, of course. Our executive editor, Jordan Bennett-Begay, she was in the press room and shared that there was an audible gasp from other journalists in that room, when they announced Emma. And, people at home I've been following just sharing their sadness and confusion as well. So all around, I would say it was a very extremely shocking and disappointing moment. I know so much good has come from this film, but with that, I think even more good could have come from Lily winning the Oscar. So it was definitely a very strange moment, and to see so many people rallying behind her still, I think is very powerful and just speaks to the amazing work and contributions she has made in her time.
Paris, from where you were sitting inside of Dolby Theater, were you able to actually see Lily Gladstone? And if so, what was it like after the awards show ended? I'm specifically wondering because after the Best Actress award was announced, the show pretty much ended. And so I'm wondering if you saw any embrace between Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone, or what that moment was like.
Right. Well, Emma did share, she did give a nod, as you mentioned, to Lily and saying she shared this award with her. I know they've been close throughout this whole process. So I'm curious to what those conversations are going to be like. I can't imagine that it would be anything short of supportive still. But yeah, it was great to see her, Lily, and all of the cast on the red carpet. Everyone looked stunning. It was amazing. And I was really happy to be there.
The other major moment of the night came when the Osage singers took the stage, and you actually attended the Oscar nominee luncheon leading up to the awards show. You got to speak to Scott George there, who was nominated for Best Song and unfortunately didn't win. But tell us what that performance was like inside the theater.
Again, I was extremely emotional once they started playing the trailer for the movie to introduce Scott George and the Osage Singers. I cried. I totally cried, when they were performing. This is one of the biggest stages in the world, and being able to see them there and share their music and culture, it's such a rare moment in the industry. Not only what we're seeing happening with Lily, but with other people who were involved in this project. And in an industry that continuously gets scrutinized for its lack of diversity and equity, this was a huge moment. You have the top A-listers sitting in the same room, but you're hearing and seeing someone who you can relate to, who you understand, who you feel like might understand you. And that was so special to me. It was a very rare moment. So I think it goes to show that there's a lot of opportunity and it's possible to be included in these spaces.
I think watching from my TV at home, I shared that same emotion, Paris. It's super rare for me to get choked up, but as I was watching, I had tears in my eyes as well. It really just made me realize that this story was about the Osage, the historical trauma that these people have been through. And it's such a story of resilience because we're in 2024 and these singers are on the biggest stage in the world. I just thought it was so absolutely moving and beautiful. I couldn't imagine what it was like, being there in person. I actually do want to talk more about your experience at the Oscars. You were on the red carpet and sitting inside of Dolby Theater. Tell us what was going through your head as you were there.
Oh man, yeah, I feel so extremely lucky to have been able to attend such a monumental show. I also got to see the carpet as it was being built, as press, doing a walkthrough while they were building it. It was raining here a couple days in LA, so that set them back. So those crews work tirelessly to put on this production. It was just so cool to see the finished product, with everyone in their dresses. I had to figure out, what am I going to wear. I was messaging friends like, hey, what should I do for makeup? Help me out with that. Messaging friends who I know make jewelry. I really wanted to represent, a native artist. These are actually the earrings I wore. They're by Sotaskawi Designs. And so I was so happy to be able to tell people, people would compliment them, and I would be like, yeah, like they're made by a Ghanaian and Dakota sister duo. Like, it was so cool to share. And oh my gosh, can we talk about Lily's dress? Because she was gorgeous. And it was so cool that she also got to rep quill work in a Gucci collaboration with Joe Big Mountain, who's a Mohawk Cree and Comanche artist. But being there, I mean, it's the most glamorous event you can ever attend, and people were definitely dressed to impress. Everyone was so friendly, and being in the theater, that theater sits about maybe 3,000 people, so there's a lot going on. Everyone was getting their selfies on the stairs, on the carpet, like they had to keep kind of shooing us. So it was really fun. My friends and family were super happy for me. There were points where it was like a little nerve-wracking, but what helped was I was able to attend also alongside Jordan, our editor, who I mentioned earlier. And she took some really amazing pictures on the carpet, which you can find on our website and social media too.
I want to squeeze in one last question, Paris, and that's the question on everyone's mind. What's next for Lily Gladstone, and what movies or projects could we see her in the future?
Right, totally. I mean, as disappointing as this was, there were a lot of wins that came out of this award season. Lily still made history to be the first Native woman to be nominated in this category. Scott George was still nominated. They got to perform. There was other Native talent there. I think if anything that this whole journey has shown us, whether it's Best Actress, Best Original Song, you're working as crew, as a PA, a writer, whatever it is, there are so many opportunities to create space and uplift Native communities. And so for Lily, this is not the last we're going to hear of her. If anything, we're only going to hear more about her. She has kicked down the door in so many ways in this project, and that door is not coming back on. She has so many more upcoming projects. Fancy Dance is going to also be distributed on Apple Films. She has other projects that have been announced, and that's only going to lead to more other Native stories being told, and her wearing even more Native designers at these events and amplifying Native voices. This was the 96th Academy Awards, but this was the first time a Native woman had been nominated for Best Actress, and so from here on out, that's just holding the Academy more accountable. Even for myself as a journalist, shout out to Osage News, because they were also able to attend a lot of these events, of course, throughout the course of this film and its journey. So I don't know that those opportunities would have come if it wasn't for the work of all of these people and the Osage, amplifying their story.
Well, Paris, it looked like you had a really great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
March is Women's History Month to celebrate the women who have made a difference in our lives and in the lives of their Native nations. Here's an encore presentation of an interview from our archives. This Sichangu Lakota artist shares her work that aims to illuminate the enduring strength, presence, and influence of Indigenous artistic practices within modern and contemporary art. Shirley Snavy interviews Deanne Whitehawk.
I draw from the history of Lakota art forms, so from the history of porcupine quill work, parfleche painting, beadwork, regalia making, all the practices that come directly from our communities, which are historically practices of abstraction, and they're the original practices of abstraction on this continent. And I draw first and foremost from that rich history. And I also have been educated within and am a participant within the art world, within a studio practice, making works that are intended to be hung in and displayed within museums and galleries. And so I and have studied the trajectory of Western Euro and Euro-American painting and abstraction as well. And so my work draws from those histories, but from the intersections of those histories, as it really reflects the makeup of my life and my life experiences, and the way that I have navigated spaces where, I've been taught predominantly by Native people within, tribal colleges or informal forms of education within our communities. And I've also grew up in the city and have gone to mainstream education and grad school within mainstream academia. And so my practice really is a natural reflection of all of these forms of education and life experiences.
So when you talk about that, you're talking about the tradition of family and what you learn from your family. And for art historians, those who don't know about art history, they would take a look at your work and say, oh, wow, that's really contemporary. But indeed, it's not. Because back in the old days, the Lakota women did the abstract designs, the geometric designs, and the men painted little pictures on the teepees.
That's a huge part of what I am addressing within the mainstream art world, is that the way that our art history is told, the way that we tell those stories currently in academia, in museums, and institutions, is a completely European and European American centric narrative that positions the invention of abstraction within European men and European American male painters. But and so their practice of abstraction, which is a beautiful practice of abstraction, but it is one practice of the human practice of abstraction among global practices. And our relatives, our female relatives, were painting abstractly on stretched hide on this continent before folks were here painting abstractly on stretched canvas. And so speaking about those, creating works that allow me to present conversations like that within mainstream art spaces is what I hope to be my contribution to us really critically thinking about how we're telling our stories and moving towards models where we're telling our stories more honestly. If we tell the story of this land base honestly, we have much better chances for learning empathy for one another, for practicing compassion, and for moving towards healthier models of cohabitation, because that's what's happening now. We have to learn to respect each other's histories, our contributions to these shared histories, and the fact that they are 100% intertwined histories. That you can't pull them apart. The way that and a lot of those artists, the European and European American male artists, were looking at the work of our ancestors for inspiration because it was strong work, because it was inspirational work, because it was worthy of being looked at and thought about and considered in another artistic practice.
We have that ownership as Lakota people of our stories and our family and our past, and you incorporate that so well in your work, and I just really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
What are you working on now? What's next?
Oh, we got a lot of stuff in happening in the studio right now. I have a solo exhibition that's opening at Various Small Fires Gallery in LA on November 18th. And so I have until Friday to finish the last couple paintings for that exhibit. And then there's a video installation as well titled Listen, which is a work that focuses on Indigenous language and asks its audience to consider how many languages they can identify by sound, and then think through what those languages are. And for the majority of the American public, the vast majority of those languages that they're going to be able to identify just by sound are going to be languages that aren't from this continent. I can identify Italian, I can identify French, I can identify Spanish, I can identify German. I can identify Japanese. I can identify, like we can identify these languages by sound, even if we don't know a single word. But then it asks people to conversely consider how many languages from this continent they could identify by sound if they heard it spoken next to them. And for a lot of the American public, it's going to be none. And then to think about how profound it is that they might not be able to identify a single language from this land base just by sound. And so each of the videos features female language speakers, and the videos are filmed on their homelands, and they speak for 5 to 6 minutes. So you can stand in front of each monitor and simply be introduced to the sounds and cadences of a small handful of our languages.
Deanne Whitehawk, thank you very much for joining us. MacArthur Fellowship this year. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to meet you.
Our next story is about an Anishinaabe man who joins the ranks of other Native American veterans that have been given the distinct honor of having their names on U.S. Navy ships. In 2023, Nisqually citizen and Marine Billy Frank Jr. and Tsimshian citizen and Navy SEAL Sol Atkinson were given the honor. Last week, Navy officials announced its next Navajo-class ship will be named after James D. Fairbanks. The White Earth Ojibwe citizen served in both the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps, and he was the first Native person to ever serve as Force Master Chief Petty Officer, which is the highest-ranking enlisted Navy Seabee. I spoke with Minnesota Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan after she attended a Washington, D.C. dedication ceremony. Take a look. Lieutenant Governor, you are fresh off of your trip to Washington, D.C. for this huge honor. Tell us what the trip was like and the atmosphere of the event.
It was so powerful to be in this space. So we were at the National Museum of the American Indian, and we're able to honor just this incredible man. Force Master Chief James, or Jimmy Fairbanks, as people called him, was a member of the White Earth Nation, and was really a highly decorated warrior. So for me to be able to be there in this space with his family, with his sister, with the tribal chairman and the rest of the council, and with the governor, was incredibly powerful. We've been serving in the military for an incredibly long time. We serve in higher numbers than any other racial or ethnic group, and having this recognition, it is overdue. So it felt like an opportunity for celebration, but candidly an opportunity for healing in many ways too.
You mentioned that Master Chief Fairbanks' sister was there. What were the conversations like with her about the recognition for her family? And what did she say that her brother's reaction would have been if he were still around to receive this honor?
She was incredibly kind and gracious and humble, and it sounds like that is what runs in the family. He was a man who's absolutely dedicated to service, and the thing that we heard over and over again from people who knew him was how he didn't expect to get the credit when he did the work. He just showed up and did the work to care for people and for the community, and I think that's powerful. There, we opened the ceremony in a good way with a prayer and a song, and the things that continued to really just come up were the 7 grandfather teachings, and how he lived those out every single day. But it sounds like, again, he was a pretty humble man, but also the Navy knows how to do ceremony. Boy, like it was, I think so. Being a CB and being, this leader in the Navy, I think would have also probably appreciated just the pomp and circumstance of, of this ceremony. It was, again, quite powerful, very moving, but it just was really special. And I think the last thing that I'll say about, like, one of the things that I found so moving is one of the things that the governor said He said, here we are in this space. I'm the governor from, Minnesota, with my lieutenant governor, who's a member of the White Earth Nation, but also representing a state where the largest mass execution in this country's history occurred in Mankato, the Dakota 38+2. And he said, but the quarry rock that built the National Museum of the American Indian came from Mankato, the very community, right, where that mass hanging occurred. And so again, coming back to just this notion of the recognition, but also the healing that is occurring. And I think things like this will continue to help us heal when we're recognized and we're truly seen, I think, and honored for the commitment and sacrifice of our men and women who are warriors.
Again, that was Minnesota Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan speaking about the legacy of Master Chief James D. Fairbanks. In case you are curious, Navajo-class ships are salvage and rescue vessels that are capable of towing large U.S. Navy ships and have around 6,000 square feet of deck space. All of these ships are traditionally named after prominent Native veterans or Native tribes.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.